Hello. Hi. Okay, so what you are about to watch is the first section of my online course. You are the author, you always have been, and you always will be. This course is about understanding the story that you may have written for yourself according to your past traumas and your past difficult situations and circumstances, and how to look at that story from an objective place so that you can transform your story into one where you are in your power and pursuing your purpose and feeling good. I hope that you enjoy this section. I really enjoyed making this course and I'm really, really excited. This car just pulled up next to me, but it's fine. We're rocking, we're rolling. And if you do like this course and you want to be a part of my group coaching, then go ahead and click the link in the description box. Everyone in my group coaching gets all of my courses for free forever. If you're not interested in the group coaching, then be patient because the course will be available for you to purchase in December at some point. But yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope that you enjoy. Bye.
So, last time we talked about our shadow being a horrible writer. When we live without intention, this means that all of our fear programming is deciding our steps and encouraging us to stay safe. And a lot of times, staying safe means staying exactly the same and nothing changing. So, we want to learn how to look at our story from an objective place, which we will talk more about, acknowledge the parts of our story that really make us say, this is who I am. And then that turns into how we expect ourselves to act, the actions we take, and then understand how to write a new story. Just because we write a new story doesn't mean that our old story doesn't exist, doesn't mean that our old story isn't significant. It just means that we are going in a new direction, which we are always allowed to do. We are always allowed to pivot and how to jumpstart our next chapter. So, our story determines our actions. This is section one. I am so excited to get into this with you guys. So, let's just go ahead and do it. So, what is a story? According to Oxford Dictionary, a story is an account of past events in someone's life or in the evolution of something. So, when you think about yourself, when you think about your story, especially in this context, it is so important that we don't allow our emotions to activate the law of attraction. When we think about our story, we may think about the really touchy events that have happened in the past. And when we think about it, maybe the emotions from the thought flood our body. And instead of staying focused on looking at our story, we start to get taken away by the emotions and start to think of other memories and other thoughts that align with that emotion. So when you think of your story, do your best to stay grounded, be aware of when you start to have emotional triggers, and tell yourself that you're activating your more masculine, logical mind so that you can stay grounded and see your story from an unemotional, factual perspective. And when you do that, then allow yourself to think of the past events in your life again from that unemotional place, just so like you're flipping through a storybook, so you can start to see the events in the sequence that they occurred. One of my favorite books is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. It explores a woman's emotional journey and also how her perspective shifts manifests into her reality. We just talked about this earlier. I've read a lot of books in my life, a lot of fiction, a lot of nonfiction, but I do not, I'm not going to even say I don't think, I know, I have never read a story that so naturally shows the progression that the law of attraction and knowledge of the law of attraction can have in your life. You watch this character go from a shell of a person into a human being with a sense of love and a sense of purpose and a sense of self, and you watch it happen, and it's one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite books. Each new lesson, and no matter how the lesson was packaged, moved the story forward. This is a reflection of real life. So going back to looking at our story, looking at the events on our timeline, looking at what has happened in the past. And instead of getting wrapped up in the emotions and wrapped up in how it hurt and how it felt, can we look at the events and say, this event caused this to happen, which put me in this place in my life? That place can be mental, emotional, or physical. Understanding how the different events in your life have transferred you to different areas of your reality. Understanding that is like connecting the dots, and it allows you to know, it allows you to understand your own thought process and how you expect to take on any type of conflict, how you expect to take on any type of new experiences. All of the answers about ourselves lie in our past story. Okay. Oh my gosh, I love this book. The themes within your story are determined by events that impacted you the most. Guys, I want to say one thing. If somebody from Canva is watching this, you guys have beautiful displays for your slideshows, but I need for my bullet points to come up one at a time because y'all be giving all the good stuff away at once. Okay, so let's keep our attention to the big text to the left. The themes within your story are determined by events that impacted you the most. I want you to read that to yourself and really, really download it. Understand that whatever theme, whatever pattern, whatever reoccurring situation tends to come up in your life, it is a result of something that has happened a long time ago that has molded your perception of reality. Whatever that event was that had happened taught you that this is how life is. So I should subconsciously expect this because this is how life is. Just like I need oxygen to breathe, this thing is just something that happens. It's just how life is. A lot of things that happen when we are very, very young, we don't have the filter to say that this happened because humans suck, or there's that baby at my door again. Actually, she's in a costume, so I'm going to get her because she's very cute. Where is your daddy? Where is your daddy? Where is your daddy? Where's your dad? AJ, where's your dad at? Yes. I hope that you enjoyed that little intermission. So whatever patterns are in your story, they're a result of something that happened in your past that you subconsciously believe is an event that is inevitable. Okay, so the theme of invisibility is relevant through the first half of The Color Purple. Trigger warning, I don't even know if it's necessary, but The Color Purple is a very triggering book. I will say that right now. If you are thinking about buying it, reading it, you hear me say this, it is the most triggering book you will probably ever read. So there's that, but I kept a lot of it out of this presentation. So for the first half of The Color Purple, Celie was seen as an object by both her mother and her father. The story begins with her begging God to explain why her life is the way that it is, because she has always been a good girl. Celie is impregnated by her father, and her mother pretends not to notice her growing. Celie then has a baby alone. No one comes in to check on her. I'm not going to tell you to imagine this happening to you, but instead imagine observing it happen to somebody else. A young person becoming pregnant and their own mother does not help them along that journey and actually pretends that she does not see her daughter progressing in her pregnancy. Imagining how deep of a seed that plants of invisibility, how deep of a seed of no matter what I experience, no matter what pain I'm in, no one can see it. Such a deep seed. Like her first, Celie's second child was taken while she was sleeping. She was unable to speak for herself. And finally, Nettie, Celie's sister, has a lighter complexion, making her the attractive sister. Quote, Mr. finally speak, clearing his throat. I ain't never really look at her at that one, he say, The Color Purple. And something that I think is so interesting is that Celie covering her smile, if you've seen the movie, you know that for the whole like first third of the movie, Celie covers her face when she smiles. She doesn't like anyone to see her laugh, anyone to see her smile. And you could tell it's an action that she has developed ever since she was young, because you know Whoopi is a queen. Um, so I just think it's so interesting that that's not even something in the book, but this identity of her being invisible was just so clear in the book that it kind of just transferred right into the movie. Oh gosh, I love this movie. So this movie and this book. Events from childhood mold an adult's unconscious perspective of reality. Again, I'm going to keep telling you guys, it is unconscious. It is not on the surface. It is not always obvious. Sometimes we have to really sit back and observe our story in order to be able to identify these things, because again, that it's supposed to be like this. Some of the things that we've learned from childhood, we can equate to the sky being blue. We can equate to water being wet. People just don't like me. Some people believe that people don't like them and that's just how it is, just like they believe that the sky is blue and water is wet. Some people believe that life is hard. We've just talked about this in our private group coaching, but some people believe that life is hard and they think that this is just how life is, in the same way that water is wet and the sky is blue. It's just the way life is. And that unconscious programming, it comes out in everything we say, everything we do, the way that we think and the way that we move in the world. But we must remember that it is unconscious. So instead of beating ourselves up and saying, how didn't I see this? This should be so obvious. Instead of doing that, we must recommit occurrence to awareness and being present, so that when we look over our story in our present reality, we can start to identify those reoccurring themes. Celie went from treated as if she were invisible to believing that she was invisible. So the ways that you were treated when you were younger, as you guys know, when we were born with as complete blank slates. We don't have any expectations nor any understanding of the world, and everything that we observed becomes our understanding. We observe everything. We're little sponges and we take it all in and we say, this is the way that the world is. So if we're treated a certain way when we're younger, or if someone has certain expectations of us when we're younger, we go from having that behavior projected onto us to simply seeing ourselves that way and projecting whatever was projected onto us onto our own reality, no matter how big of an illusion it is. He loved looking at Suge. I love looking at Suge, but Suge don't love looking at but one of us, him. But that's the way it's supposed to be. I know that, but if that's so, why my heart hurt me so? Oh my gosh, this is such a good example of how our stories create these perceptions, but our soul is consistently trying to remind us of the truth, remind us of that foundational truth that we are worthy of love, we are worthy of joy, and we are worthy of living in a way that allows us to express our purpose, our true life purpose. I love this book. The way the character behaves is determined by the themes of the story. The way that you behave is determined by the themes of your story. I'm like, why did I even use the color purple? My heart is breaking every slide. Stories often have patterns that represent the main character's limiting beliefs. So when you look over your story and you start to see the situations in your life that happen consistently, that you even begin to expect, ask yourself, what belief within you can these situations be a reflection of? If something is continuously happening to you, begin to understand the themes of that situation and understand how your personal perspective may have manifested that situation. And again, this is not about playing the blame game. This is not about being upset with ourselves for not knowing better or being better at attracting our dream reality or whatever. This is about being patient with ourselves so that we can really start to uncover the illusion that was created in our childhood. Sophia, a character whose personality is described as quote unquote strong, often finds herself in situations where she must be strong in order to survive. She fought when she was a child, she fought her husband, she defended herself against the mayor and was taken to prison. This is also a reflection of real life. The habits, the personality traits that you find work for you when you are a child, you carry with you, or even when you're a young adult. It doesn't have to be childhood. It can be very, very young adulthood. But whatever you learn works for you at that age, you tend to hold onto and clutch onto like a security blanket as you get older, because when you were young, you learned that that behavior and that mindset kept you safe. But that is an illusion. Do, 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 do. I'm just really happy to give you guys this information. Learning to look at one's experiences from an objective perspective can lead to huge breakthroughs. Again, being objective, learning how to look at something without personal feeling or without personal opinion, and instead just looking at something logically is so powerful, because our emotions tend to sway our feelings about things. And we always have to make sure that internally we are balancing our masculine and our feminine, because it can serve us to have our head in the clouds when we are creating our desired reality and when we're learning what we want our desired reality to look like. But we must be able to ground ourselves and find that masculine perspective, that logical, grounded perspective that tells us the truth, and there's not any wiggle room for the truth. In our personal reality, yes, our truth is our truth, but truth is not subjective, okay? So allow yourself to look at your story and tell yourself the truth about your story. And the thing is, that truth may only peek its head out. It might only say hi in a really quiet voice the first time you decide to reflect. But the more you go back and the more you observe from that unemotional place, the more your brain will learn that, hey, it's safe. It's safe for me to look at my past. I am strong enough and I am grounded enough to take a look at these past events and to make a decision for myself, because nothing scares me. I can do this. Yeah. And then finally, questions for self-reflection. So this will be a PDF that I will upload to the group, so do not feel like you have to rush to write these down right now, but I will just read a few of the questions to you. What were the themes of my old story, right? Because if any part of your reality isn't working for you, let's go ahead and put a stamp on that and say it's your old story. Let's start detaching from it. What were the themes of your old story? And then what are the themes of my new desired story? As we begin to understand what we want our new story to look and sound like, we also got to understand what new themes we want to see. What situations do we want to see repeating in our lives, whether that is random blessings. We find that we're getting random blessings all the time, or we find that something happens that makes us feel even more grounded and secure all the time. Just what new themes do you want to see in your new story? What life lessons have moved your story forward? Are there any parts of my current perspective that are derived from my childhood or young adult life? And what are those perspectives? And finally, which of my personality traits are most relevant to my everyday life? I hope that you enjoyed this section of this course. I enjoyed teaching it, and feel free to continue on to exercise number 1. For those of us that are in this live call right now, that exercise will be uploaded to the group this week. And if you are in the course, it'll be in the next module. So yeah, see you in the next lesson.